In a world where tech billionaires are often polished, press-trained, and obsessed with legacy branding, Steve Ballmer has always stood out, loud, passionate, unpredictable, and unapologetically himself. In 2025, he's still one of the richest men on the planet, still bursting with energy, and still rewriting what it means to be a billionaire. But his path to this moment didn't follow a straight line from code to courtside. It's a story of calculated chaos, high-volume vision, and an unshakable belief in doing things his way. Let's rewind to where it all started. Ballmer joined Microsoft in 1980 as employee number 30, fresh out of Stanford's MBA program. He didn't write code, he didn't build devices, he sold. He managed, he rallied. He was the guy with the spreadsheets, the business mind behind the software revolution. And while Gates had the quiet genius mystique, Ballmer brought the thunder. He yelled, he danced, he sweat through his shirts at company events, and somehow, that larger-than-life energy didn't push people away, it pulled them in. Over the next 3 decades, Ballmer climbed the ranks to become CEO in 2000, right as the dot-com bubble began to wobble. His tenure wasn't without criticism. Critics pointed to missed opportunities in mobile search and social media. But what's often overlooked is the financial outcome. Under Ballmer's leadership, Microsoft tripled its revenue and doubled its profits. He transformed it from a Windows-dependent company into a diversified software powerhouse, with deep roots in enterprise, cloud, and gaming. When he stepped down in 2014, few expected him to quietly retire, and they were right. That same year, Ballmer shocked the sports world by purchasing the Los Angeles Clippers for a then-record $2 billion. At the time, many wondered if he had overpaid. A decade later, the team is valued at more than double that, and Ballmer has become one of the most visible, vocal, and invested owners in the entire NBA. But why basketball? For Ballmer, it wasn't just a business decision. It was about energy, community, a live arena full of noise, movement, and the unfiltered emotion that corporate boardrooms could never replicate. It gave him a stage not to perform, but to feel. He wasn't sitting courtside in sunglasses, like other owners. He was up out of his seat, clapping, yelling, high-fiving fans, sometimes even losing his voice mid-game. And while the public mostly sees the passion, what's happening behind the scenes is all strategy. Ballmer isn't just cheering for the Clippers, he's building them. He invested heavily in front-office leadership, player development, and perhaps most visibly, infrastructure. His billion-dollar project to create the Intuit Dome, a state-of-the-art arena designed entirely for basketball, is set to redefine the fan experience. Yet what makes Ballmer's evolution so compelling is how he's carried lessons from Microsoft into every new venture. He understands ecosystems. He's obsessed with data, and whether he's evaluating a tech startup or scouting a draft pick, he asks the same question: what's the long game? In 2025, Ballmer's life is split between two worlds: the refined quiet of high-level investing and the explosive heartbeat of NBA fandom. And he moves between them effortlessly. One day he's speaking with policymakers about data equity, the next he's in a Clippers hoodie, shouting from the baseline like a teenager at their first game. From spreadsheets to slam dunks, Steve Ballmer didn't just pivot, he transformed. And he did it without changing who he is. Coming up next, we take a look behind the scenes, into Ballmer's hidden world of real estate privacy, and how one of the most public billionaires manages to live one of the most private lives in tech. If you tried to Google Steve Ballmer's mansion, you might come up surprisingly short, at least compared to what you'd find on other billionaires. That's not an accident. Despite being one of the richest people on Earth, with a net worth surpassing $100 billion in 2025, Ballmer has managed to keep most of his private world well private. He doesn't flaunt seaside mega mansions, or host yacht parties off the Amalfi Coast. For Ballmer, luxury is less about visibility, and more about functionality, control, and comfort. And just like his personality, his real estate choices reflect substance over spectacle. His primary residence remains in the Pacific Northwest, tucked away from the limelight not far from Microsoft's old stomping grounds. This home, reportedly built with sprawling square footage and top-tier security, isn't featured in glossy architecture magazines. You won't find drone tours or Instagram walkthroughs. What you will find, if you were ever invited inside, is a space designed around productivity, privacy, and family. Think smart systems, understated design, and enough tech behind the walls to make a Bond villain jealous, but without the ego. Ballmer's homes are not status symbols, they're sanctuaries. Even his Southern California property, located within reach of the Clippers' future home at the Intuit Dome, is intentionally understated for a man of his means. Though nestled in one of LA's most exclusive zip codes, the property avoids the kind of look-at-me design flourishes common among tech billionaires. You won't see Grecian statues or a fleet of supercars parked out front. What you might see instead is a carefully curated gym, a state-of-the-art screening room for watching Clippers footage, and true to Ballmer form, a fully wired control center for tracking game stats and business updates in real time. But the most important part of these properties isn't what they contain, it's what they keep out. Ballmer is famously averse to the culture of oversharing, while other billionaires launch media brands, drop into podcast circuits, or share family vacations online. Ballmer stays quiet. His security teams are tight, his travel plans are sealed, and his home life, even in 2025, remains a locked vault. That said, those close to Ballmer describe him as surprisingly grounded inside these walls. He eats simple meals, he dresses in Clipper merch and comfortable layers. He might be one of the wealthiest individuals alive, but the guy pacing his living room yelling at a fourth-quarter turnover is the same one who used to sweat through his button-ups on the Microsoft stage. And when he's not at home or at a game, Ballmer finds escape in nature. Reports suggest he owns a secluded getaway in Washington state, possibly near a lake or forest, where he can unplug entirely. No phones, no cameras. Just hiking boots, long walks, and maybe a few spreadsheets printed out for weekend reading. This off-grid retreat isn't a flex. It's how Ballmer resets. He's a man of big energy, but even he needs a power source. And for someone used to controlling billion-dollar operations, silence is perhaps the most valuable commodity of all. While he may be loud on the court and passionate in public, Steve Ballmer's private life is structured, guarded, and remarkably low-key. It's the foundation that lets him explode with energy when the lights are on. It's how he stays sharp in a world of distractions. And it's why, even in a digital age obsessed with access, Ballmer still feels like a mystery, one you can cheer for, but rarely get close to. Up next, we step into the place where Ballmer's two worlds collide, the courtside chaos, the team he rebuilt, and the billion-dollar arena that might just redefine how basketball is experienced in America. If you've ever watched a Los Angeles Clippers game in the past decade, you've likely seen him. Not just sitting courtside, but living it, pacing, fist-pumping, throwing both arms into the air like he's conducting a symphony of pure adrenaline. That's Steve Ballmer, owner of the Clippers and perhaps the NBA's most animated billionaire. While most team owners keep it cool in designer suits and subdued nods, Ballmer can be found in a Clippers windbreaker, red in the face, screaming over a three-pointer like it's Game 7 of the finals, whether it is or not. By 2025, the Clippers aren't just that other team in LA anymore. They're a legitimate powerhouse, culturally, financially, and in pure fan energy. And much of that evolution traces directly back to Ballmer's influence. When he bought the team in 2014 for $2 billion, then the highest price ever paid for an NBA franchise, it wasn't just about sports. It was about community, it was about creating something enduring in a city already dominated by basketball royalty. Early on, skeptics scoffed, the Clippers had long lived in the shadow of the Lakers. But Ballmer didn't flinch. He pumped money into front office talent, modern training facilities, and cutting-edge analytics. He empowered leaders who understood the modern game, on and off the court. He hired championship-caliber coaches, locked in star players, and fostered a locker room culture focused on hard work and identity. For him, owning the Clippers wasn't about ego. It was about legacy. Then came the Intuit Dome. In 2025, Ballmer's $2 billion arena is no longer a blueprint. It's reality. Located in Inglewood, the Intuit Dome is more than a venue. It's a statement. Designed for peak fan experience, the arena boasts the largest ever double-sided Halo scoreboard, seats with personal USB ports, and even areas dedicated solely to fan cheering. Yes, designated screaming zones. It's part tech lab, part basketball cathedral, and it's 100% Ballmer. He once joked that he wanted fans to never have to look down at their phones during a game. Instead, he envisioned a live experience so rich, so immersive, that being there felt like stepping into the future of sports. And now, it is. The Intuit Dome has changed the Clippers' identity, from tenants in the Lakers' house to rulers of their own. But it's not just about the structure, it's about energy. Steve Ballmer's passion is contagious. He's not just attending games, he's part of them. Players say they feel his presence. Coaches say his support is relentless. Fans, they adore him. There's no cynicism, no polished billionaire detachment, just a guy who loves the game with the volume turned all the way up. He's also built deep community programs around the team. From youth leagues to local economic initiatives, tied to the arena's construction, Ballmer has ensured the Clippers aren't just entertaining, they're contributing. And in LA, where sports loyalty runs deep and history heavy, that matters. By 2025, the Clippers are not just winning games, they're winning over a city. And while the roster changes, one thing stays the same: Ballmer losing his mind in the front row, as if every basket matters like it's the first one he's ever seen. And maybe that's the secret. For all his wealth, Steve Ballmer still feels like a fan, a mega fan with courtside access, a billionaire bank account, and the will to make his NBA dream a real lasting legacy. Next we follow the money, because whether it's Microsoft dividends, sports franchises or tech bets, Ballmer's empire is bigger than you think. Let's explore how he's turning passion into profit, and what his wild net worth really funds. Chapter 4: Ballmer's Billions, where the money is, was, and will be. Steve Ballmer didn't just stumble into his wealth, he engineered it. In 2025, with an estimated net worth hovering well above $100 billion, Ballmer is firmly planted among the richest people on earth. But unlike some of his ultra-wealthy peers, his fortune didn't come from being a founder, it came from being essential. As Microsoft's CEO for 14 years, Ballmer was the business backbone behind one of the most powerful tech companies in history, and his bank account reflects that precision, endurance and strategy. The bulk of Ballmer's wealth can still be traced to his early Microsoft stock. He joined the company in 1980, before most people even knew what software was. He accepted a modest salary, and crucially stock options that would later balloon into an empire. By the time he stepped down as CEO in 2014, Ballmer held about 4% of the company's shares, roughly 333 million shares at the time. He's since sold a portion of his holdings but still owns enough to earn billions in dividends and growth alone. In recent years, Microsoft's resurgence under CEO Satya Nadella, thanks to its dominance in cloud computing, AI services and enterprise software, has added even more zeros to Ballmer's portfolio. His Microsoft stake has appreciated dramatically, and while he's not hands-on at the company anymore, his wealth rides the wave of its continued success. But Ballmer isn't just sitting on that fortune. In fact, he's surprisingly active in where and how it moves. His purchase of the Los Angeles Clippers in 2014, for $2 billion, raised eyebrows at the time, but in 2025, it looks like a bargain. The franchise is now valued at over $4.5 billion, with future projections pushing even higher thanks to the new Intuit Dome, branding deals, and a steadily growing fan base. His hands-on approach has built both cultural capital and financial return. Outside of sports, Ballmer's investment interests have quietly expanded. He's dipped into private equity, backed several AI and data startups, and shown growing interest in infrastructure, not the kind with roads and bridges, but social infrastructure. He's become increasingly focused on the systems that underpin communities, education, healthcare, data, urban design, and public finance. One of his more interesting ventures is his support of civic tech tools that help local governments use data more efficiently. Through targeted investments and philanthropic arms, Ballmer has funded platforms that track government spending, evaluate social services, and even help communities make better budgeting decisions. He isn't just giving money away, he's trying to optimize how it's used. Real estate plays a quieter but substantial role in his wealth as well. Ballmer owns high-value properties in Washington and California, but he's also made strategic commercial investments tied to urban revitalization and development. These aren't vanity purchases, they're part of a broader ecosystem he's helping shape where data, dollars, and design meet real-world impact. Despite all this, Ballmer keeps a relatively low profile when it comes to financial bragging. You won't catch him launching a cryptocurrency, buying a space company, or live streaming stock picks. He doesn't posture, and he rarely speaks in hyperbole. His approach is more quiet giant than flamboyant mogul, and that's what makes his billions so interesting. They're not just parked in yachts or luxury portfolios, they're active, evolving, and increasingly tied to civic life. Ballmer sees his money not just as a reward, but as a resource. One that when directed wisely can change more than just markets. It can change systems. Up next, we look at how Ballmer's wealth has become a tool for something even more ambitious: fixing what's broken. From education reform to social equity, discover how one of the loudest voices in sports is helping shape a quieter, more data-driven revolution in philanthropy. For someone as famously energetic as Steve Ballmer, writing a check has never been enough. Philanthropy, to him, isn't just about generosity, it's about engineering. About scale. about changing the very structure of how cities work and how systems serve the people within them. In 2025, Ballmer's giving isn't just big, it's smart, targeted, and deeply tied to the kind of reform that doesn't show up in headlines, but shows up in lives. It all runs through the Ballmer Group, the philanthropic organization he co-founded with his wife Connie Snyder. While the Gates Foundation focuses on global health and education, the Ballmer Group is aimed squarely at the American domestic landscape, particularly at the systems that either lift people up or let them fall through the cracks. Think education, criminal justice, foster care, and public finance. The kind of slow, structural work that doesn't always get flashy attention, but forms the backbone of any equitable society. The Ballmer Group is driven by data, no surprise given Steve's obsession with analytics from his Microsoft days and his sports ventures. The idea isn't just to donate, but to measure impact. Their approach is to fund organizations and governments that use evidence to drive outcomes. If a program works, it scales. If it doesn't, they move on. It's a feedback loop that echoes the startup world, but applied to policy. In recent years, Ballmer has become one of the largest individual funders of child welfare reform in the United States. That includes investing in predictive tools that help social workers identify at-risk families earlier, as well as programs that help kids exit the foster care system into stable homes faster. He's also put serious money behind education equity, especially in communities of color, funding everything from early childhood initiatives to community college pathways that are designed to close the opportunity gap. But one of the most ambitious and unusual fronts in Ballmer's philanthropic playbook is civic data infrastructure. That might not sound sexy, but it's revolutionary. Through the Ballmer Group and a series of targeted partnerships, he's building out platforms that help local governments understand what's working, what's not, and where resources should go. Imagine a city's budgeting process being as precise as a corporate dashboard. That's the kind of reform Ballmer is betting on. In Los Angeles, where the new Clippers arena has created an economic ripple effect, Ballmer has also invested in community programs tied to job training, housing support, and youth development. The goal isn't just to bring fans into the arena. It's to bring investment into the neighborhoods surrounding it. It's a kind of hyper-local philanthropy that recognizes how sports, business, and community well-being are deeply interconnected. Importantly, Ballmer doesn't try to be the face of his giving. While he's animated on the court, he's low-key in the world of philanthropy. You won't see his name on buildings or bridges. He doesn't post about his giving sprees, he just funds what works and expects results. This no-frills approach has earned him respect among policy experts, nonprofit leaders, and data geeks alike. In 2025, Steve Ballmer's wealth isn't just generating returns, it's generating outcomes. Outcomes that can be tracked, replicated, and scaled. His philanthropic empire may not be the loudest, but like everything he does, it's full of energy, just directed in a way that hits a different kind of scoreboard. And as Ballmer shifts more of his time toward fixing systems and lifting communities, one question lingers: what kind of legacy does he want to leave behind? In our final chapter, we explore what's next for this larger-than-life billionaire, what drives him, what he's building for the future, and how he's shaping a legacy that's just as bold as his courtside cheers. Chapter 6, Legacy Mode. What's next for Steve Ballmer? Steve Ballmer has always done things differently. He yelled in meetings, danced on stage, and cried on live television when he stepped down as Microsoft's CEO. He turned a struggling NBA team into a high-value franchise and built one of the most fan-friendly arenas in the world. And now, in 2025, as he sits on a net worth north of $100 billion, he's entering a phase that most billionaires try to define late in life: legacy mode. But as always, Ballmer's version looks a little different. To understand what's next for Steve Ballmer, you first have to understand what he doesn't want. He's not chasing statues. He's not building rocket ships. He's not creating museums in his name. He doesn't crave reverence, he craves results. His idea of legacy is performance-based. It's about systems, communities, measurable change. It's about building things that still work when he's not in the room. First, there's the Clippers. Ballmer's vision for the team goes far beyond just winning a championship, though make no mistake, he wants that too. The opening of the Intuit Dome marks a turning point, not just for the franchise, but for Ballmer's stake in the soul of Los Angeles sports. He wants the Clippers to become a generational brand, one that isn't just known for loud ownership or high payrolls, but for building a culture, a community, a home court where winning is expected and impact off the court is guaranteed. He's also laying groundwork for a long-term succession plan, not just for the team, but for his philanthropic ventures. In the Ballmer Group, a new wave of leadership is rising, experts in social equity, data science and education policy. These aren't protégés groomed to imitate him. They're thinkers equipped to carry the mission forward on their own terms. Ballmer is stepping back from the spotlight in some areas, but not from responsibility. He's deeply involved in ensuring the next stewards of his resources think long-term, act ethically, and measure ruthlessly. Ballmer's interests are also shifting towards systemic reform. He's spending more time in conversation with mayors, school superintendents, and governors, people who don't get flashy coverage, but make decisions that touch millions of lives. He's especially focused on public infrastructure that no one sees, child welfare software, municipal finance dashboards, back-end systems that, if improved, could lift thousands out of poverty by simply working better. It's not glamorous, but that's why it needs someone like him. He's also putting serious time into mentorship. Privately, Ballmer has been advising a small org of next-generation business leaders, helping them think about scale, ethics, and longevity. There are no Steve Ballmer masterclasses, no TED Talks, just quiet, direct mentorship, the kind that makes a difference off camera. So what's next? Maybe more writing, maybe teaching, maybe just more walks, more spreadsheets, more time with family. Ballmer isn't trying to reinvent himself anymore. He's refining, he's carving out his legacy not in bronze, but in budgets, in outcomes, in lives changed by systems that finally work. And maybe that's the real surprise. The man once defined by volume and intensity, has built something that might just endure, because of its quiet, data-driven logic. He doesn't want to be remembered as the loudest guy in the room. He wants to be remembered as the guy who helped the room run better, for everyone in it. If you made it this far, you've seen the full spectrum of Steve Ballmer, the showman, the strategist, the builder, the giver. Which version surprised you most? Let us know in the comments. Hit that like button if you felt the energy, and don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into the lives of the world's most fascinating figures, because sometimes, legacy isn't just what you leave behind. It's what keeps working long after you've walked away, long after you've walked away, long after you